Hi. Have you wondered why children with ADHD lack motivation? Or they can only do the things that they really want to do, and the things that they have to do, they have a problem with? Well, there's a psychiatrist by the name of Dr. Ned Hallowell, and he's actually come up with a new description of ADHD, and that is VAST, V-A-S-T. In other words, variable attention stimulus trait. What it really means is that you can do something only if you want to. It just depends. So the typical thing that you see with kids is they have no trouble sitting watching TV. They seem to be quite motivated with PlayStations. And yet, when it comes to homework, getting ready in the morning for school, or sitting in the classroom, and the teacher wants them to do particular things, they lack motivation. So this really comes down to people blaming kids with ADHD with lack of willpower. They are just lazy, they naughty, they don't do what they should do. They can do it. And also children with ADHD tend to be erratic. So, one moment they're doing their work so well, and then the next moment they're not. And when that happens, particularly at school, teachers often think, well, they don't really have a problem. They can do it when they want to, but they don't always. And I think this is something that we need to understand. And why is motivation a problem with ADHD? Well, what I'd like to help you understand is that in the front of the brain, there are those 7 abilities that go wrong with ADHD that are not as well developed, called your executive functions. And one of them is the mind's mirror, self-awareness. The other is the mind's break, being able to kind of pause, think more. And the next one is something called working memory. And that's the ability, like the mind's GPS, to be able to have foresight and hindsight, and to be able to know what you're doing now. And people with ADHD have a problem of being able to call up the past and find out and think about what happened in the past and the way things went right or wrong or negative things. And they're able to connect with their behavior that will influence the future. And they have difficulty seeing past the very moment. They're caught in the now, they're time blind. They're unable to think and almost have foresight, think of the scenarios that things will, the way things will go if they do things right now. And as a result, not being able to see the future, being caught almost like blinded by time, doesn't get you motivated for the future. You're unable to change your behavior now because your life just exists now. You don't see a future. So motivation to eat right with health, they just snack. They can't see the consequences of eating too much and putting on weight, being unhealthy, being obese, getting diabetes, or looking after yourself, not undergoing and doing risky activities for the consequences, The other thing that I feel with ADHD is motivation is related to emotional control. Now, it sounds like a bit of a weird association, but if you can harness your emotions, whether they're positive or negative, being able to keep them within you rather than dissipating them, being out of control, allowing your emotional state to just explode, just to fly off the handle. Being able to keep those emotions deep down, controlled, making sure you've got the brake on them, being able to internalize them, use them as positive reinforcements, and also motivating you not to do things if those emotions are negative. And being able to do that is the absolute basis of motivation. If you can't control your emotional state, you can't motivate yourself. You can't keep your emotional state under control and think about something and controlling your behavior for something in the future. being able to do something for a reasonable length of time, to be able to put in a lot of effort now that may take a little bit more effort and a lot more time for a much later payoff. And that is motivation. It's the inability to see time, your working memory, to keep something in your mind that you have to do long enough to be able to do it. And that is what kids have difficulty with. We need to keep them accountable. You've got to make their reality with what they're doing really accountable. You've got to give them constant feedback. You've got to give them positive feedback, or if it's negative feedback, that's also something that helps motivate them. And the rewards that children need. Children with ADHD are immature. Their brains are immature. They don't have the ability to motivate for their appropriate age. They need those little motivations like younger children. They've got to be promised something now. They get the treat or the candy now and they'll do it. They can't see the long-term consequences. So I hope that helps you understand why motivation is a huge problem. And you as a parent are their executive functions that help control, motivate, and help enhance the ability to motivate.